Damien Blackwell had built his empire on 3 unwavering rules: never trust completely, never reveal emotions, and never blur the line between business and personal affairs. At 43, he was the ruthless mind behind Blackwell Global Holdings, a conglomerate whose reach extended across industries, continents, and political spheres. His officier penthouse nestled high above Manhattan's skyline stood like a command center of power. Its floor-to-ceiling windows reflected the towering steel city he conquered, and the dark wood furnishings whispered wealth. A golden halo from the morning sun fell over his sleek desk, where he silently reviewed the company's quarterly reports. Every figure in the report spoke to him in languages only moguls understood: capital gains, market shifts, employment metrics. They were more than numbers. They were reflections of years of calculated risks and cold decisions. Damien had never inherited a cent. He clawed his way to the top, refusing to compromise for sentiment or weakness. For 8 years, Claire Harmon had served as the only person allowed to exist within his professional radius. Claire, his executive assistant, operated with clinical efficiency, indicating needs before they rose, preparing dossiers before he asked, silencing distractions before they reached his ear. She was irreplaceable, or so he believed. That morning, his intercom buzzed something Claire rarely used unless it was essential. "Mr. Blackwell," her voice crackled with restrained urgency, "I have some unfortunate news. I was involved in an accident last night. I fractured my wrist. The doctor says I'm to rest for at least 2 weeks." Damien's jaw clenched. His silence was sharper than any reprimand. Claire was the backbone of the upcoming Horizon Summit 5-day strategic retreat tucked away in the Blue Ridge Mountains, where Damien was scheduled to unveil his company's next multi-billion-dollar venture. Claire knew every detail, from the presentation layers to the personal preferences of high-value partners. Her absence would be catastrophic. "Who can replace you?" he asked flatly, his voice a blade cutting through the moment. "I've reviewed all internal candidates, sir," Claire replied. "There's only one who meets your security clearance and has relevant experience. Lily Anderson, from the research division. She's worked on several key projects, including the quantum analytics rollout. She's quiet, but extremely capable." The name sparked a faint recollection, an analyst buried somewhere in the company's lower floors. Damien didn't remember her face, only that she had never caused trouble or demanded attention. In a company of over 4,000, that anonymity was typical unless someone stood out through brilliance or failure. "Send her file. Have her ready to leave in 2 hours, he ordered. An hour later, Damien stood in the soaring lobby of Blackwell Tower, his Bentley praying outside. He expected someone forgettable, efficient, professional, and invisible. That's what he needed, a body who would handle the logistics and stay out of his way. When the elevator doors slid open, she emerged. Lily Anderson. She was exactly what he had anticipated, and somehow not at all what he remembered. She wore a modest navy blazer over a pressed white blouse, her dark hair pinned neatly into a no-nonsense bun. Thin wire-rimmed glasses framed her face, which was attractive in an understated, almost deliberate way. She walked with quiet confidence, carrying a laptop bag and a small suitcase, her steps measured and self-assured like someone used to navigating the world without leaving ripples. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwell," she said, her voice even and gentle. "Thank you for the opportunity. I've reviewed all presentation materials and I am fully prepared for the retreat." Damien regarded her with a cold, calculating gaze. She was neither a threat nor a distraction. That would suffice. "Let's go." It's a long drive. The Horizon Summit was held at Eden Regia Luxury Estate buried deep within the Virginia mountains, designed for executives to strategize far from the distractions of modern civilization. Damien refused to travel by jet for this event, opting instead to drive. He believed there was clarity in solitude and control in the journey. Lily sat beside him in silence as the Bentley sliced through winding mountain roads. She kept her attention fixed on her tablet, fingers tapping at intervals, occasionally pausing to jot notes in a slender leather notebook. Not once did she attempt idle conversation. Damien found himself stealing glances not because of attraction, but because of curiosity. There was something unusual about her composure. Claire had made a smart choice. "You've never been to Eden Ridge, I assume?" he asked after an hour, more to break the silence than out of genuine interest. "No, sir, but I've studied it." Originally built as a private estate in 1895, converted into an executive retreat center in the late 80s, the main lodge houses 40 guests, with satellite cabins for staff and overflow, fully equipped for secure presentations and off-grid privacy. Her answer was clean, informative, and emotionless. Exactly what he expected. Damien preferred professionals who understood their roles and didn't contaminate business with personal details. Lily Anderson was shaping up to be ideal, yet he noticed that her tone didn't lack confidence. It was selective. By late afternoon, Eden Ridge emerged from the dense green of the forest like something out of a dream. The main loggia blend of timber and stone sat like a crown jewel above manicured gardens and a private lake that mirrored the sky. Flowering pots meandered between buildings, and the hush of spring filled the air. Damien parked, his eyes briefly scanning the grounds. When he turned to Lily, he caught an expression flicker across her face, something like wonder. It was gone in a second, replaced by her usual professional calm as she stepped out of the car and retrieved their materials. "Your suite is in the main lodge, second floor, facing the lake," she reported crisply. "I'm in cabin 12, approximately 200 yards to the south. The welcome reception is at 6 p.m., followed by dinner at 8. Damien nodded, but something about her familiarity with luxury surroundings lingered in his mind. She didn't gawk. She didn't take pictures. She moved like someone who had once belonged to this world. He tucked that observation away. Eden Ridge welcomed over 30 senior executives from finance, technology, healthcare, and energy. These were Damien's peers, powerful, exacting, and competitive. Most had built fortunes by making hard decisions and embracing disruption. Lily placed herself in a corner of the conference room, laptop open, headset in place. She worked like a machine, capturing notes, managing schedules, directing support staff. She had swapped her earlier blazer for one with a slightly more tailored cut, still conservative, but somehow enhancing her quiet elegance. During Damien's keynote address on quantum logistics and sustainable AI infrastructure, she typed with relentless precision. He rarely glanced her way, but he could feel her presence, calm and immovable. As he spoke to the room about shifting industries, automation, and the future of cognitive systems, he noticed something else. Lily wasn't just transcribing. Her eyes flicked to each slide before it appeared. She anticipated transitions. She adjusted the lighting without prompting. She aligned every piece of the presentation to perfection before he even noticed something needed fixing. She was more than efficient. She was intuitive. Damien finished his address to applause. As executives mingled and dissected his strategies, he took a moment to observe Lily again from across the room. She remained in the corner, invisible to most, indispensable to him, and yet, there was something about her still unsettled in his mind. Later that evening, Damien wandered the estate alone. It was a habit, this ritual of processing the day. The mountain air was brisk, scented with pine and distant water. He found calm in isolation, in the absence of expectations. As he turned a corner by the lake, he saw her. Lily sat on a bench, her laptop closed. She stared out at the water, her posture relaxed, her expression unreadable, but there was a softness in her profile, a sort of quiet pain, a weight beyond the job. Damien hesitated, then stepped forward. "The view's worth the trip," he said, settling beside her. Lily didn't startle. She simply nodded. "It's peaceful. Rare to find moments like this." He studied her. "You seem familiar with resorts like this." For the first time, she looked directly at him. Her eyes, usually hidden behind data and precision, held something deeper. "My family used to travel to places like this before everything changed." The air between them thickened. Damien wasn't sure why her words affected him, But they did. He didn't press further. She didn't offer more. The moment passed. I should return to my cabin, Lily said quietly, standing with grace and dignity. We have a long day ahead. She walked away without looking back, and for the first time in years, Damien Blackwell sat in silence, not thinking about profits or projections, but about a woman who was supposed to be invisible. Damien Blackwell woke before sunrise, as was his routine. The air in Eden Ridge was thinner than in Manhattan, cooler, more transparent, and touched by the pollution of ambition or deadlines. But unlike most mornings, his mind wasn't consumed with financial models or merger strategy. It was her, Lily Anderson, the woman who had spoken of a lost past with quiet dignity, the assistant who had, in less than 24 hours, pierced his carefully maintained indifference. The memory of her alone at the lakeside, face softened in moonlight, lingered in his mind like a melody he couldn't forget. He wasn't drawn to her physicality in the way he typically was with women. This was something different. Intrigue, disruption, depth. Damien didn't like disruption. The second day of the Horizon Summit was packed with presentations, private meetings, and think tanks. It was a power storm of egos and ideas, a test of endurance for even the most seasoned tycoon. Damien performed flawlessly, as always. He delivered a keynote on cross-border digital infrastructure with his signature blend of vision and certainty. He argued for universal data sovereignty and laid out a roadmap for decarbonized logistics. Executives nodded, investors scribbled, rivals took mental notes, but Damien found his attention drifting it to market trends. But to Lily, she moved through the event like a ghost with a master plan. She adjusted lighting before it dimmed. She silenced malfunctioning microphones before feedback could squeal. She handed him the correct brief before he reached for it. It was as if she anticipated him sometimes before he even knew what he needed. Robert Cole, his longtime friend and business partner, leaned over during a break and murmured, "Your assistant's impressive. Patricia really trained her well." Damien frowned slightly. Claire barely knew her. Lily came from the research division. Last-minute choice. Robert raised a brow. Research? Huh? That explains why she looked like she understood everything during the AI panel. Most note-takers just record words. She looked like she was processing algorithms. That caught Damien off guard. He hadn't considered that. It made her even more interesting. The summit's second night was dedicated to a formal dinner and elegant event designed to loosen colors, exchange cards, and deepen professional alliances. The dining hall glowed under crystal chandeliers. Silverware gleamed beside bone-white china. A quartet played chamber music in the corner. Damien arrived on time, dressed in a tailored charcoal suit, silk tie, and the kind of polished restraint that signaled money without begging for attention. He expected to find Lily already seated, clad in some variant of her conservative wardrobe, a blazer, blouse, minimal makeup, hair pulled tight. Instead, he stopped short. She stood near the entrance, speaking quietly to one of the event planners, and she was transformed. Her dark hair had been released from its tight grip, cascading in soft waves over her shoulders. The wire-rimmed glasses were gone, revealing eyes more expressive than he remembered. She wore a midnight blue dress, sculpted to her form with a precision that was tasteful yet undeniably feminine. It wasn't provocative, it was powerful. She turned, catching him staring. For a moment, neither moved. Then she smiled. "Good evening, Mr. Blackwell," she said, voice as calm as ever, but her presence had shifted entirely. "Lily," he said, the name catching in his throat. "You look..." He stopped himself. Words failed him. "Thank you," she replied with a faint smile. "I thought the evening warranted something more than a blazer." They entered together, though she maintained a careful distance. Damien noticed heads turning, men who hadn't noticed her before now subtly leaning into her orbit. One in particular broke through the crowd. Julian Vager, a business consultant from Miami with a reputation for charm and global networking. He was everything Damien distrusted: slick, smooth, to perfect. "Miss Anderson," Julian said, stepping forward with a gleaming smile. I don't believe we were properly introduced yesterday. Julian Vega, Vega International. Lily extended her hand with quiet grace. Lily Anderson, Blackwell Holdings. Call me Julian, he said, his voice as polished as his cufflinks. That dress is stunning. You have impeccable taste. Thank you, Julian, she replied, her tone gracious. I understand you've worked extensively in Southeast Asia. I have, he said, launching into stories of economic summits and diplomatic deals. Damien watched, a strange tension rising in his chest. She laughed softly, but genuinely. She asked sharp questions. She navigated the conversation with intelligence and wit. Her charm was natural, not crafted. Her insight, authentic. And worst of all, she looked radiant while doing it. Throughout the dinner, Lily and Julian engaged in a spirited discussion about ethical trade policies. Damien listened, silent, his steak untouched. He hated how Julian leaned in slightly. He hated how Lily seemed comfortable with him. He hated how they looked compatible. You seem distracted, Robert whispered, leaning over during dessert. Just thinking about tomorrow's panel, Damien lied. I still fixed on Lily. Aha, Robert said, unconvinced. And that has nothing to do with the fact your assistant's been stealing Vega's attention all night? She's free to speak with anyone she wants. True, Robert said, and you're free to admit you're attracted to her. Damien said nothing, but he couldn't deny it. He was. After dinner, guests migrated to the lounge for drinks and continued networking. Damien needed air, space, distance from the image of Lily laughing with another man. He wandered toward the outdoor pool, tucked between hedges and stone pathways. The water shimmered under soft lighting, steam rising into the cool night. Then he saw her. She sat at the edge, barefoot, feet dipping into the warm water. The dress was gunner-placed with a white blouse and dark trousers. Her hair was slightly tousled. She held a glass of wine, her face thoughtful. You couldn't sleep either? Damien asked, approaching softly. Lily didn't look surprised. Too much energy, too many conversations. He sat beside her, close enough to feel the warmth of her body, the scent of her perfume laced with mountain air. You handled yourself well tonight, he said. Julian seemed impressed. He's charming, she said simply, and intelligent. You seem to enjoy his attention. She turned, eyes searching his face. Did that bother you? The question landed like a match on dry leaves. Should it? That depends, she said, voice softer now, on whether you see me as just your assistant, or something more. The silence between them throbbed like a living thing. Damien's heart beat faster. I see you, he said, his voice low. Do you? She whispered, or just what's easy to see? Then, without warning, she rose to her feet and stepped into the pool fully clothed. Her blouse clung to her figure instantly, her hair dripping, her silhouette radiant under the glowing water. What are you doing? He asked, stunned. Living, she said. Something I forgot how to do, but I'm remembering. He shed his jacket, his shoes, his hesitation. Moments later, Damien joined her in the water. They stood chest deep, the steam around them wrapping like fog. He couldn't look away. Her eyelashes shimmered with droplets. Her breath mingled with his. The air crackled. Lily, he began. Some things can't be controlled, she whispered, closing the distance. Her lips touched his and the world tilted. The kiss began tentative, unsure, then deep and hungry, consuming, desperate. Damien had lived a life of structure, power, logic, but none of that mattered now. Nothing did. She tasted of wine and danger, and something he'd never allowed himself to want. When they finally broke apart, breathing hard, reality crashed down around them. This can't happen, Damien whispered, but his hand still held her waist. It already has, she replied, and in her eyes, he saw storms that rivaled the ones gathering above the mountain peaks. The storm that had loomed in the distance all evening broke in the early morning hours. Rain fell in heavy sheets across the mountains, cascading down the lodge's stone terraces, washing over the garden paths with the fury of a long-awaited release. Inside his private suite, Damien Blackwell sat awake at the edge of his bed, hands clasped, shirt still damp from the pool, mind racing. He could still taste her on his lips. Lily Anderson, his assistant, his ghost-like shadow, the woman he hadn't seen until the moment she disappeared into moonlight, soaking wet and unforgettable, had shaken the very foundation of his control. For the first time in 20 years, Damien had surrendered to feeling. Real, raw, uncontrollable feeling. No strategy, no calculation, just emotion. It terrified him. By the time Damien entered the breakfast room hours later, the sun had broken through storm clouds, casting brilliant shafts of light across the valley. Eden Ridge looked cleansed, renewed, but he didn't feel cleansed. He felt exposed, and there she was, Lily, back in her conservative blazer and neatly pinned bun, glasses perched on the bridge of her nose, her blouse crisp and white. She sat at a small table near the window, notebook open, slicing a piece of toast with mechanical precision. She looked exactly like the woman who had entered his life 2 days ago, nothing like the woman who had kissed him in the heated pool just hours earlier. "Good morning, Mr. Blackwell," she said as he approached, her tone strictly professional. Damien sat opposite her. The view behind her was breathtaking, mountains kissed with fog, birds tracing arcs across the lake. But all he saw was her, and the steel walls she had rebuilt around herself. "About last night," he began. Lily didn't even glance up from her toast. "That was a moment of weakness for both of us." Her voice was steady, cold. The words fell like a gavel. "We are professionals," she continued, "and professionals understand boundaries. We crossed one. It won't happen again." Damien blinked, stunned by how neatly she dismissed something that had rocked him to his core. "Is that how you really feel?" he asked, studying her carefully controlled expression. Lily finally met his gaze, but there was no flicker of softness in her eyes, no trace of the woman who had leaned into him beneath glowing water. "Feelings," she said quietly, "are a luxury that people like us can't afford." The words echoed in his mind like a sentence passed down from a judge. The day's agenda left little room for introspection. Strategic roundtables, executive presentations, networking sessions. Damien delivered his final address with poise, speaking on post-global economic transition and the need for ethical infrastructure design. On the outside, he remained the composed visionary, the billionaire leader admired for his intellect and confidence. But on the inside, he was unraveling. He watched Lily more than he should have. She floated between tables with quiet precision, passing documents, adjusting screens, whispering instructions to staffers. To the rest of the room, she was just an assistant, competent, invaluable, invisible. But he saw the stiffness in her shoulders, the way her pen hovered above the page longer than necessary, the guarded silence that was more fragile than firm. He didn't understand her anymore, or maybe he never had. That afternoon, Julian Vega took the stage. His presentation on sustainable trade innovation earned applause and admiration. As expected, Julian was a showman, and he knew how to control a room. After the session, he approached Lily with a smile and his trademark charm. "Miss Anderson," he said, "I hope this isn't goodbye. I'd love to continue our conversation about policy applications in emerging markets. I'll be in New York next week. Would you join me for dinner?" Damien stood nearby, frozen. Lily hesitated, then without looking at Damien said, "That's kind of you, Julian. I'm not sure my schedule allows for personal engagements." Julian smiled, suave and unfazed. "Surely Blackwell Holdings doesn't mind if their top staffers expand their networks." The bait was set, and Damien took it. "Miss Anderson makes her own social decisions," he said coolly, stepping forward. "Our company doesn't dictate employees' personal lives." Julian arched an eyebrow, nodding in subtle triumph. He extended his hand to Lily. "I'll be in touch." As he walked away, Damien turned to her but said nothing. Lily offered him a faint smile, and nothing more. Evening fell with the quiet exhaustion of closing ceremonies and packing boxes. The retreat was ending. Guests were departing. Deals were sealed. Contacts exchanged. Damien found Lily alone in the now empty conference hall, sorting documents into folders. They were surrounded by silence. Just the two of them. He didn't bother with a greeting. Are you going to have dinner with him? She didn't look up. Does it matter to you personally, or are you worried about appearances? The question hit him like a slap. Personally, he admitted. At that, she set the folders aside and finally turned to face him. Her calm expression cracked just slightly. Something dark and sad moved behind her eyes. Then you should understand, she said slowly, that some decisions can't be made on feelings alone. Sometimes we have to consider deeper consequences. What consequences? He asked, stepping closer. What are you not telling me? She stared at him, silent, and for the first time, he saw something warring inside her. Conflict, pain, determination. Who are you really? He whispered. Because I don't believe you're just an assistant. Lily took a long breath. Her shoulders squared. I've been waiting almost 3 years for this conversation, she said. Damien blinked. What do you mean? I've spent the last 18 months in your company, she continued, gaining access, watching, listening, waiting for the right moment. Waiting for what? He asked, his voice barely audible. For the truth, she said. Lily stepped forward, no longer hiding behind pleasantries or protocol. My real name is Lily Harrison. The name meant nothing at first. My father, she continued, was Dr. Michael Harrison, founder of Harrison Biotech. You acquired his company 5 years ago, or rather your lawyers tore it from his hands. The name hit Damien like ice water. Dr. Harrison, the brilliant bioengineer whose patents had revolutionized cardiac devices, whose company had tried to resist a hostile takeover and failed. The man had died just 6 months after the acquisition heart failure. The headlines had said, your company, Lily said, her voice sharp now, destroyed him. You crushed everything he built. You buried his name under legal mud and patent theft. Damien took a step back. No, he whispered. We negotiated. You manipulated. Lily interrupted. You called it business. He called it betrayal. He died fighting to protect something that mattered. Something that could have saved lives. Tears welled in her eyes, but she didn't break. I joined your company to see if the man who destroyed my father was a monster, or a man capable of regret. Damien couldn't breathe. All the pieces came together: her hidden intelligence, her knowledge of luxury, the way she handled executives like a seasoned insider. She hadn't stumbled into his world. She had infiltrated it. I kissed you, he said, the realization hitting him like a betrayal. I didn't plan that, she whispered. I didn't expect you to be human. What do you want from me? Damien asked, broken and breathless. Justice, Lily said. Acknowledgement. I want my father's name cleared. I want your company to admit the truth to the media, to the industry, to the world. And I want his work credited properly, legally. Damien stepped away, stunned. That would destroy Blackwell Holdings. Billions in losses. Legal liability. I'd lose everything. Lily didn't flinch. And if you do nothing, she asked, you remain the man who buries truth to protect his empire. The man who taught me emotions were liabilities. Damien stared at her, the woman who had challenged everything he thought he was. The woman he had fallen for. The room felt colder now, not because of the mountain air or the rain that still tapped softly against the window spit, because Damien Blackwell had just seen the cost of the empire he had built. He stood in the center of the empty conference room, staring at the woman who had become both his awakening and his reckoning. Lily Harrison, not Lily Anderson, the anonymous assistant, not the quiet observer from the research team, but the daughter of a man Damien had crushed in the name of acquisition and profit. She stood tall before him, her composure hard-won, her eyes shimmering with unchecked emotion. What do you want from me? Damien asked again, this time with no defense in his voice. Only, I want the truth, Lily said. The truth that my father wasn't the reckless dreamer your legal team made him out to be. The truth that Harrison Biotech was taken through intimidation, manipulation, and theft. Damien turned away, his mind unraveling. He walked to the window, staring out over the glistening mountaintop where mist still clung to the trees like memories refusing to fade. If I give you what you want, he began slowly, I lose everything. My father lost everything, Lily said, her voice trembling with conviction. His company, his reputation, his life, all because someone like you decided he was in the way. Damien closed his eyes. He remembered the acquisition. Harrison Biotech had been a small but promising firm, innovative, well-respected in the medical community, but vulnerable. Their patents were valuable, their growth potential massive. Damien had seen an opportunity, and he had taken it. He hadn't considered the man behind the company, just the numbers, just the outcome. I was wrong, he whispered. I didn't see what I destroyed. He turned back to Lily, pain etched into every line of his face. If I do this, if I go public, admit what happened at Blackwell Holdings will collapse. Thousands of people will lose their jobs. Investors will flee. The lawsuits alone. He couldn't finish the sentence. Lily stepped closer, her voice softer now. I know, and I've spent every night thinking about that, wondering if vengeance would just create more destruction. Damien's eyes searched hers. Then why now? Because I didn't come here for revenge, she said. I came here for truth, for acknowledgement, and for something else I never expected to find. Damien held his breath. You, she whispered. A long silence settled between them, neither retreating, neither advancing. Then Damien spoke, voice steady. There may be a way. Lily tilted her head. What do you mean? I can't destroy the company, he said. But I can start something new, something in your father's name. A foundation, independent, transparent, publicly acknowledged as the rightful heir of his work. It would fund research, restore his patents, give credit where it's due, and I'll finance it personally, not with company money. Mine. Lily's breath caught. I'll testify, he continued, in writing, that your father's ideas were stolen, that the acquisition was not clean, that the credit for those innovations belongs to him. She stared at him, stunned. I can't change the past, Damien said, but I can give it meaning. And what do you want in return? She asked. Damien didn't hesitate. You. Lily stepped back, startled by the simplicity of his answer. You want me after all this? I never wanted anyone the way I want you, Damien said. Not because you're beautiful or brilliant, but because you made me feel again. You made me see again. He approached her slowly, cautiously. You reminded me that there's more to life than power and precision. You reminded me that I used to believe in something better. Lily's voice cracked. I don't know if I can trust you. Not after everything. Then don't trust me yet, he said. Let me earn it. Let me rebuild the man I should have been. Not just for your father, for you, for us. A tear slid down her cheek. My father always said, she whispered, that people deserve second chances if they're willing to fight for them. I'll fight, Damien said, every day. For you, for his legacy, for the chance to be more than the man I used to be. She looked up at him, the storm in her eyes giving way to something warmer, something real. Then, slowly, Lily reached up and touched his cheek. I believe you, she said, and this time, when they kissed, it wasn't born of desperation or confusion. It was quiet, sure, and deep. A vow made not with words, but with hope. Outside, the rain softened to a mist, wrapping the mountain in peace. Inside, two hearts that had been broken by the same tragedy found a way to begin again. They left the conference room hand in hand, not as employer and assistant, not as billionaire and infiltrator, but as to people who had discovered something greater than justice, love, and with that love, a path toward redemption. The Morrison Harrison Medical Foundation made headlines across the globe. Its first breakthrough revolutionary cardiac device designed by Dr. Michael Harrison and restored from archived prototypes was hailed as a medical marvel. Thousands of lives were expected to be saved within the first year alone. At a quiet ceremony overlooking a peaceful mountain lake, Damien Blackwell and Lily Harrison were married in front of close friends, family, and researchers who now worked under her father's restored name. There were no photographers, no press, just a soft breeze, rustling trees, and a sense of something healed. The vows were simple, the promises real, and as Damien looked into Lily's same eyes that had once stared across a boardroom with righteous fury, he saw not the woman who had come to destroy him, but the one who had saved him.